Hello and welcome to Tween Bake Off Sweet. This month we are doing classic banana bread. Now, as with everything, we start with what you are provided, and that is 2 cups of all-purpose flour, a cup of sugar, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a teaspoon of baking soda, 2 different things, I promise, and a teaspoon of salt. And you're gonna have 1 cup, which equals out to be about 3 medium bananas. And I know, looking at them initially, you're like, ew, why do you want super brown bananas? But this is actually the perfect look that we want our bananas to be for banana bread, because it means that the fruit is breaking down and there's more sugar in the banana. So it's actually gonna be really, really nice. All right, what you're gonna need is you're gonna need a stick of butter at room temperature, which means you should be able to squeeze it, but not like, you know. A tablespoon of milk, 2 eggs, a loaf pan, and a teaspoon of cinnamon. Nope, that's close. There we go, cinnamon, yay! Now you are also going to want a couple of different bowls and either a spoon or a scraper of some kind, and you're going to want a hand mixer or a stand mixer. Either will work perfectly fine. All right, let's get this all situated and start us off. All right, so starting with step 1, you're actually going to go straight to your oven and you're going to preheat it to 325 degrees, okay? And then once you're done with that, we're going to butter our loaf pan. So what that means is you're going to take a stick of butter. This is how I do it, at least. Use the wax paper as your handle, and then you're just going to rub the butter all over the pan. This is like when we oiled our pans with white bread. Instead, this time we're using butter as our form of oil. 1, it's going to taste so delicious, and 2, it also keeps the bread moist while it's cooking in the oven. Because this is what is known as a quick bread, because yes, it is banana bread, obviously. Bread is in the title, but it's a quick bread, so instead of having to go in with the yeast and let it rise and then punch it back down and let it rise again, this just is a one and done. All right, make sure you get into those corners really well. Bread loves to stick in the corners. Everything loves to stick in the corners. So yeah, it may seem like you're using a lot, but it's really not. It's not at all. Okay, so our pan is really well buttered. You guys can see how there's no shiny spots. Yes. The only shiny spots are the spots where there's butter. And if you really feel like you didn't get in there good enough, go back in. There's no harm in it. Make sure you've got it nice and greased. All right, so this one's gonna happen in pretty quick succession, which means that they're gonna go one right after the other pretty quickly, rather than some of our other recipes where it's gonna stagger a little bit nicer. So we're going directly into step 2. We're gonna cream the sugar and the butter in a large mixing bowl until light and fluffy. Now, creaming just means that we're gonna whip it up really, really fast, and it's gonna look like whipped buttercream, pretty much. So we're gonna take our room temperature butter and That is beautiful. You want it soft and pliable, but also firm enough that it's not just liquid sloshing in the bowl. That's not good. That's not gonna get creamy. And then we're gonna do a cup of sugar. All right. Now, most of the time what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna level it off. I'm pretty solid at just guesstimating, so that's not a problem for me. But when you scoop up any kind of dry good, you're going to want to level it off to make sure that it's completely even And that's the exact amount you need. Anything over mounding on it is just extra, which we don't want and we don't need. All right, so we're gonna cream this up. So if you have a hand mixer, you're gonna set it to a low setting because again, when we add powder of anything to anything, it goes and creates a big cloud. So slow and steady is, wins the race. And if you want to, you can break up your butter a little bit. It'll be fine. I'm gonna turn this on and I'll see you in a second. All right, so now that we have light and fluffy, we are going to start adding in our eggs. So we have our 2 eggs right here. You're gonna add them one at a time. You're gonna make sure it's all mixed in very well before you add the next egg. Whoop. Sometimes whites don't want to come off the shell. And when that happens, you just say, done. All right, beautiful. Also, highly recommend getting yourself a garbage bag. You can just use a plastic bag from, wherever, and that will work perfectly. And then all your garbage goes into one spot. Whoop, pull it up, you're done. All right, so we're gonna mix this in and we'll be back in a second. So when I say fully mixed in, it should look like scrambled eggs at this point, okay? You are not looking for anything but that consistency. You don't wanna see any bits of white, any bits of yellow standing alone. So we're gonna add our second egg, crack that. Always please try to crack your eggs on a flat surface. If you crack it on the edge of the bowl, you're actually pushing some of the shell into the egg. Whereas if you crack it on a flat surface, nothing's pushing up, so it won't go in. It'll just split. All right, let's mix this in. All right, so now we have a much more liquidy custard color that we're going for. So now in the instructions, it does say in a separate bowl to mix together the mashed bananas, milk, and cinnamon. I did not realize or know that you should mix them separate. I've always mixed eggs, banana, and sugar and everything else together because those are the liquids. So I'm gonna do that because that's the way I've always been taught. If you wish to do it in a separate bowl, that is absolutely fine. Whatever makes you comfortable, all right? So we are going to add our bananas. So yes, like I said before, it seems like they're gonna be gross, but honestly, they're perfect for banana bread. You don't wanna use fresh bananas. They're not gonna have enough flavor to actually carry through. So make sure you peel off any of the skin, rind. Okay. Boop. We're gonna leave little strings. Sometimes they'll have little strings on them. Just want to go through, make sure you get those off. And then I like to personally break up my banana as I throw it in, because yes, banana is squishy, but you put a whole banana in there versus parts of a banana in there, and it's gonna take a lot longer to actually mash down, and it's gonna take longer to mash down and get to the consistency that we want. So if you're wondering, well, Ms. Gwen, I have fresh bananas, how am I gonna make it? What you can do is you can either, specifically when you buy bananas, look for ones that have more brown spots. Not rotten, but definitely more brown spots. Those are gonna be a little bit older and a little bit softer. Or what you can do is you can take your bananas home, put them in a brown paper bag, and leave them in there for a little bit, between probably at least 6 to 8 hours, if not at least a day or two, and they will ripen up super, super fast because you're trapping all of the gas that they release in there with them, so it makes it age faster. It's really cool. But be sure you check on them because you don't want to have rotten bananas. You want like 2 steps before rotten. All right, so we've got our bananas. Let's add our milk. So it's a teaspoon of cinnamon. I eyeball it because I trust my instincts, but please, until you develop instincts for what is too little or too much, use measuring spoons. They are your best friend. Measuring cups are your best friend. Professionals use measuring spoons and cups. Everybody does. It's on little things like this, especially in baking. A little bit of fun can be had with seasonings, but otherwise you stick real close to those measurements because it's very specific for a reason. So I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon. Whoop, perfect. And personally, I like to add a couple other seasonings. I don't find the cinnamon to be quite enough for me. So I'm going to add a little bit of clove. Yeah, you're welcome to add some seasonings if you want or have them. Otherwise, you are more than welcome to just stick to the cinnamon and call it good. So I add a tiny bit of clove and a dash or so of nutmeg. And sometimes if I'm feeling fancy, I'll add some vanilla. Only a small amount because it's already pretty sweet and vanilla is going to make it sweeter. But it also can help if you don't have really old enough bananas to add that extra moisture. So we're going to smash all this together. Personally, I like to go and just smush them down before we start whipping it all up. All right. So you're going to mash all this together, and once this is all mixed thoroughly, you're going to start doing your dry ingredients. So I will see you with some dry ingredients. Right. So let's mix those dry ingredients together. You're going to start with your 2 cups of flour, which you guys have in a baggie, so you can just dump that right in. Be careful, when you dump flour, you get a cloud of powder. Flour dust is not fun to inhale. Believe me. All right, 1. See? Shut up all the way off my arm. And 2. All right. There's that. I like keeping a towel next to me just because, frankly, baking is messy. And I like to try and clean as I go. So we've got our 2 cups of flour. And now we're going to add our baking powder, baking soda, salt. Okay, so I'm starting with the baking soda. All of them are labeled very clearly in different colors. I don't want anybody confusing anything. 1. Sorry, this is a half teaspoon measure, so I have to do 2 scoops. 2. All right, baking soda, baking powder. This has what is known as 2 different leavening agents. So what a leavening agent is it's something that actually helps cakes, breads, pretty much any baked good that has a bready or floury texture to it, you're going to have some kind of leavening agent. In regular bread, it's called yeast. Yeast helps everything billow up, and it's great and it's wonderful, but sometimes we don't need yeast because yeast would taste weird, especially in this, because yeasty is a very savory flavor and this is a sweet bread. Yeast also needs time to rise, so instead we added 2 different agents to make it go whoop in the oven. All right. Yeah. So we're going to mix this together. Like, you don't have to really go ham on the mixing, because honestly, once you start stirring, you really can't tell where the flour is and everything else, because it's all white. All right, so give that a quick stir. Got our delicious banana mixture over here, and we're going to add it right on in. Okay, and then you are just going to stir this until the flour disappears, because we don't want to overwork the gluten or our bread is going to be chewy instead of delicious and light. It'll be really dense, and it won't taste different, but it will feel different in your mouth, which will make it taste different. So it's gonna take a minute. Don't worry, you're not gonna overstir it in like 2 stirs. You're fine, you've got time. You've got stuff to do. It's cool. It's gonna take a second, but you just keep going in, you scrape around, you cut through. There we go. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Make sure you get underneath the batter. Make sure you get all over, because you do not want pockets of flour in your mixture. That's gonna make it just be a really weird empty pocket when you finally are done cooking. All right, so, yep, our flour has pretty much disappeared, which is ideal. That's what we're looking for. We have a nice kind of sticky texture to it, and that's perfect. So then we're gonna just pour it out or slop it in to our loaf pan, and then we're gonna throw it into the oven for an hour and 10 minutes. It cooks low and it cooks slow, but it is so worth it. So, like I said, we're gonna dump this into here. You don't have to worry about it being even. You don't have to worry about tapping out bubbles, any of that. You just slap it in and go. You can shake it a little bit if you want to make sure it gets in the corners. Then you're gonna put it in your oven at 325 for an hour and 10 minutes. Make sure you set a timer. And I will see you when our bread comes out of the oven. All right, welcome back. We have now baked our banana bread loaf. When it comes out of the oven, you want to make sure by dipping a knife towards the center, and as soon as the knife comes out clean, you are perfectly good to take it out. Before you take it out of the pan, you need to let the bread rest for about 10 minutes. So we have a beautiful, deep, dark brown bottom, gorgeous top. It is very warm, but the best thing about it is that once it is cooled down enough to take out of the pan, you can cut a slice and eat it right away. All right, I hope you all have a wonderful time. Enjoy your banana bread. Nuts are always optional for those who would like them. However, we try to do everything that we can to be as accommodating as possible to allergies, so there definitely was no nuts involved. All right, I hope to see you guys at the end of the month with Tween Bake Off Savory, where we're making sour cream and chive biscuits. Ooh. All right, bye.